There's a quote that routinely buzzes around the internet, usually attributed to Albert Einstein, that goes like this: if bees disappeared off the face of the earth, man would only have 4 years left to live. Well, there's little basis in fact for this, but it does remind us how bees are really important. They are the world's most prolific pollinator of food crops. So welcome to Saguaro Spotlight. I'm your host, Deanne Kincaid, and today's guest is Jock Rawls. Welcome to the show, Jock.
Thank you, Deanne.
Jock is a backyard beekeeper, and he's going to tell us all about the process of keeping beehives in municipalities, right?
That's
so
correct.
Tell me how you got started.
So initially I got started keeping bees actually when I was a teenager in high school. Just had a fascination with honeybees. They're like a superorganism, the colony is. And I kept bees for about 4 years, started veterinary school, and that kind of derailed my beekeeping endeavors at that point. About 4 years ago, the interest came back and I started backyard beekeeping in Central Phoenix.
And how long have you been doing it? 4 years, did you say?
4 years in Phoenix.
In this latest thing? So what do you get out of it?
Just the pure enjoyment of maintaining honeybee colonies, keeping them healthy, watching them thrive, just watching themselves as a superorganism, a colony.
Yeah. Can anybody do this?
Almost anyone can. It does take a lot of research. People should read books about beekeeping, should get to know beekeepers. There's a few local associations and join those.
Interesting. And what's it take to get started? Do you have to buy a lot of equipment? I mean, where do you go to the bee store and buy bees?
You can actually, but yes, there are some equipment costs involved. Once someone's done the research, they understand what is involved at that point, and the cost, and the dedication toward it, the time commitment toward keeping bees.
I suppose you have to check them out every week, or at least maybe even every day?
Actually, only about every 7 to 10 days. Initially, when new beekeepers are getting started, I recommend weekly inspections that can go to every 14 days once a comfort level has been achieved with those.
You could take at least a vacation.
Yes.
And not worry about the bees.
Yeah.
Well, what are the approximate costs to get started? Is it a few hundred or a few $1,000s?
What's recommended is for someone getting into beekeeping, you should start with 2 honeybee colonies, and it can run anywhere from $800 to $1,500.
And then what are the permits that are required? I mean, in certain municipalities and backyard of cities and urban areas, is everywhere in Phoenix allowing backyard beekeeping?
No, some municipalities forbid backyard keeping actually. So there are a lot of rules and regulations associated with it, which would also be important for someone to research that before investing in beekeeping.
And I understand that you're going to show us on a video what's called a spring inspection, correct?
That's correct.
I'm assuming these are seasonal inspections, if this is the spring one?
That's correct. So springtime, our bees are starting to build up their numbers and our flowers are starting to bloom. So I'm making sure everything is on track and the colonies are healthy going into our spring nectar flows.
Well, since we can't bring the beehives into the studio, I had the luck to go to Jock's backyard and videotape some of his beekeeping apparatus and procedures. So we're going to take a look at that video right now, and Jock's going to describe what's going on in his backyard beekeeping. There you are.
So these are my hives here. We're bringing frames out. Right now I'm starting to smoke her up, a little bit of burlap, some pine straw, and just a smoldering smoke basically to subdue the bees a little bit while we're doing our inspections. The smoke also helps move them out of the way so I don't injure the honeybees as I'm removing frames or boxes. And there I'm applying a little bit of smoke, just a small amount.
Good colony, a good number
As you can see, we're just kind of moving the bees around so we can get to the frames to remove the frames. And there I'm carefully pulling a frame out, trying not to crush any bees whatsoever.
That's a delicate operation.
Sure
Yes, it is.
And I see you're well equipped to not get stung.
That's right. They can still sting me through those gloves I'm wearing, but I'm just very careful where I put my hands at, not to crush a honeybee.
They can sting you through those gloves?
See all the
Those are very
pollen in
thin
there.
nitrile gloves.
and
Oh,
the
I
liquid
see.
in the cells. That's actually nectar that they're storing.
And there we can
right
see
now.
pollen, we can see nectar.
Combs.
Interesting. Okay.
Notice the honeybees are very calm. They're just kind of hanging out on the frame while we're taking a look at them there. This video here, I'm just shaking some bees off of this. This is an empty comb. It's an older comb. It's real dark. And I want to replace this comb with a newer comb. This comb has been in the beehive for about 3 years, and it's time to replace at this point.
Okay. Looks like the video froze just a minute. They're going to get it going again. There we go.
So I'm comparing 2 frames here I'm going to remove from the colony.
Replace them with fresh frames of wax.
Okay. Now, I know that in a minute here, you're going to show that these frames have to be dated and replaced periodically. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's primarily what we call the brood chamber of the hive, where they make their baby bees at.
Is this the front door of
That's
the hive?
correct. Busy front door. We have citrus blooms coming on, so the bees are really busy right now, bringing in nectar and pollen from the citrus blossoms.
They don't need a very big aperture, do they? They can sneak in that little sliver, huh?
That's right.
Okay, now what's that red tool I see in your hand
So that's
there?
called a hive tool, and that's a tool specially designed where I can bring the frames out, actually without damaging the equipment.
I see. Oh, are you dating it now?
There I'm putting a
I've got the
month
month
and the year on the
and
frame,
this
I
frame
see.
so I
will
know
serve
3
as
years
the
from
brood
now
chamber.
I'll actually want to replace that frame.
And 3 years from now,
That looks like a newer frame. Is it because it's a lighter color?
Exactly.
Okay. And then you close it up.
Yep, very carefully.
What was that hole in the center of that?
So it just allows some airflow and ventilation within the beehive, especially great in Arizona with our heat in the summertime.
Now here's some close-ups that, of course, I couldn't get with my cell phone because I was afraid. This shows the queen bee, right? The one
Yes.
that has the yellow mark on it in the center of the picture.
That's correct.
Now, how did she get that yellow mark?
So that was actually applied by the person that I bought the queen bee from.
Okay.
It makes it easier to find her when I'm doing the hive inspection.
Now, we also are lucky enough to have someone in the studio that's going to demonstrate this bee outfit. I don't know what else to call it. What do you call the whole headdress and jacket? Is there a special name for that?
You could call it your inspection uniform, personal protective equipment.
Boy, TSA is going to be jealous, aren't they? So Miss Maria has been kind enough to come and demonstrate this. So tell us what you're seeing now. If we can get a shot of Maria, please, and her beekeeping apparatus. And she will, there we go. So tell us what, from the head to toe, what is she wearing?
So basically, around her head, that's called a veil. And there's a thin, basically a veil around her face that protects her face from bee stings
see.
To the face and eyes. And the veil is zippered securely to the jacket that she's wearing and Velcroed. So we want no openings to that, so no bees can sneak inside there. And then Maria has her gloves on that keeps her fingers and hands and wrists protected from bee stings as well.
Okay, well, that's quite an outfit and very protective, I see. So that's really what a beekeeper would want to invest in, first of all.
Part of the investment.
Now, what fuel did you use in that smoker? What did you do to calm the bees?
So basically, it was a few strips of burlap. I got that started with the lighter and just got it smoldering. And then I packed some pine straw in on top of that. Just makes for a nice smoke that's not too harsh.
Burlap and pine straw. And had you tried other fuels? Is that the one that works the best? I mean, what else would you use in there? Like
For me,
hickory?
yeah. For me, it's just all personal preference. Some beekeepers may use like cotton materials, things like that, wood chips. It's all kind of personal preference.
Can you harvest the honey?
Sure can. Once your colonies have gotten to strong enough and producing enough nectar and they're healthy, yep, they can produce honey and you can harvest that.
So what kind of honey would it be from your particular beehive in the backyard of Central Phoenix?
So in Central Phoenix, there's going to be a lot of different flower sources available. Citrus, backyard gardens, desert landscaping. So there's going to be a mixture of flower sources in this honey that you have here. And it changes seasonally. Obviously in the spring we have citrus, more summertime it's going to be more desert blooming plants.
So it's a mixture depending on what time of year the bees are pollinating so that they put that into the honey. And you actually produce honey and it's available for sale, I understand. If someone wanted to buy this, would they go to your website?
They sure can. They go to my website. I sell at the Uptown Farmers Market, and
Let's see if I get this.
but unfortunately, I did sell out of honey in December, so they'll have to wait till May when I harvest again.
Well, I hope that the crew is putting that website up right now. Tell us, though, just in case they aren't. How does it read? Tell us the name of the website.
So it's World Wide Web of www.bridlepathbyard.com.
Bridle, B-R-I-D-L-E.
Yes.
Path, P-A-T-H.
Yes. Byard.
Beeyard, B-E-E-Y-A-R-D.
Correct.
.com.
Yes.
That's a mouthful, so
It
I hope
is.
they put the graphic up. So, Jock, have you ever been stung?
Oh yeah.
You sound like it was a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same reaction anyone else does. There's pain initially. You want to run inside the house and try to get away, but you just be calm and remove the stinger.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of pain and swelling. Initially, I took Benadryl, a little ibuprofen that went down within a few hours. But I get stung about every other month.
So where are your bees from? I made a joke about going to the bee store, but I imagine there are specific sources for the kind of bee that you want to cultivate. So where are yours from?
That's correct. So the queen bees you saw are actually a strain of bees called Italian bees. They're a more calmer, gentler bee that's commonly used in commercial beekeeping, and they're very well adapted for the heat of Arizona, work well in our climate.
That's important. So I've heard of bumblebees and honeybees. What's the difference?
So bumblebees are a native bee. They're larger, they're fuzzier, many are black and yellow stripes. They also serve a very important role for pollination as well.
So bumblebees can pollinate, but honeybees make honey.
That's correct.
So a bumblebee couldn't make honey.
They make only
Okay.
a small amount just to
Okay.
maintain their...
And how do you keep them from being Africanized?
So by keeping strong colonies, they're able to fend off Africanized bees from coming into the colonies.
And real quick, I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but tell us a little bit about bee colony collapse.
So bee colony collapse is a combination of issues with honeybees, but probably the introduction of a parasite in the United States in the late 1980s started that process.
Oh, so we're still struggling with that, right? And
Yep.
beekeepers, backyard beekeepers need to really help culture the bees to keep them from dying out completely, right?
That's correct.
Because I understand if you had 79% less bees, we'd have 0 almonds.
That's correct.
That's horrible.
That is.
We can't have that happen.
No.
So I hope our viewers have learned a lot about bees today and that you've enjoyed our guest, Jock Rawls. Thank you so much for being on the show
You're
today.
welcome.
I'm your host, Deanne Kincaid, and that's about all the time we have, so thank you for watching and tune in again next time. Well, I would